and a lot of stretchy stuff. And so I figured since everybody's got one of these, we will start with some, let me pop my screen down just a smidgy, with some roly on the roller, which is probably something you've done before. But if not, I'll take you through what I'm thinking would be a nice little routine. And if you want to do your own thing, of course, you could as well. So we start with our quads, and I'll just keep an eye out for Bridget. And you can roll the fronts of your legs. Real easy does it. Easy does it. And you could either do a little piece at a time, like an inch or two at a time, or you might be able to do that whole length of your thigh. And then you can do a little bit of lean over to one side, rolling, holy, a little lean to the other side. And I'm just going to kind of move us right along. But if you get to a spot and you're like, whoa, I want to stay there a little longer, you sure could. This one you might not feel it. It depends on what you've been doing. Sometimes this can feel kind of intense to do your shins. And then I'd be like in a hands and knees kind of position. I'm just going to do maybe like 4 or 5 passes through each little spot. And then you can do your IT band. So I'm coming down from this spot in my hip that pokes out that bone and down this tuxedo stripe down my leg. Or you could stop here and roll front and back. No, I hadn't been watching. Eric had something on the other night or over the weekend, but I've been kind of tuned out to the Olympics. I got to get on it. I should start. That's pretty much all I like, though, is the figure skating. Oh, and he had curling on. I came in the house and he was watching curling. I was like, what? What is this? How is this a sport? Okay, now we got side number 2. Easy does it. You can do a little bit at a time. You can do that whole length of your leg. And then you can keep boogieing around to the back of your legs. Cal, here's Bridget. Let me let her in. Calves, lower legs. You can do your hammies. And you can do both legs at a time or one leg. Hey, Bridget.
Hey, sorry.
It's all right.
I lost track of time.
It happens. We're doing some roller stuff.
Great.
And I was telling Heather and Gary, we're going to do like totally different stuff today. We're just going to roll on the floor and do a lot of stretching. And then I'll give you the option to a couple of strength things. And then I'm going to come up and put it under my hip. And I'm in that squishy spot again, in like the back of my tushy. And you could do left and right. And if you want to do something other than what I'm telling, you could do something else too. I have been so cold all day today. I had like 3 layers on in the house. I don't know what is going on. Okay, now I'm going to do my other side. We were at that big event on Saturday. I bet there was 75.
How was that?
Oh my goodness. I bet there was 75 people there. That whole place was just packed. And I didn't think anybody had a mask on, but Eric said he saw some people had masks, which doesn't really bother me. Okay, let's do, if you're still rolling, oh, you know what? There's another way we could do to your chest. This one's kind of goofy to get into it. It's not so goofy. I'm going to put the roller sort of diagonally on the side of my chest. So it disappears when I get on it. So I have to kind of show you that. So the roller's like a little bit out to the side. And then I can do chest, bicep. Yeah, you could move your arm or you could move your body on the roller. And then you could even roll it out and do a little bicep, tricep, upper arm. Yes, she got barbecue. And then the grandkids did this little display with a bunch of photos, like on a big 3-sided poster board. And then they had a printout of her obit, and we printed a bunch of her recipes. And it was pretty casual, just kind of people hanging out. Okay, now
How did your dump cake turnout?
It was good. It was just like a really sweet. I don't people only ate like half of it. There were so many desserts. There was 2 carrot cakes. My cake. I had 2 plates of cookies. The cupcakes from the actual store. What else? There was like 6 or 7 desserts on the dessert table, not to mention all of the salads, all of the barbecue insides. Like it was 3 giant trays of deviled eggs. It was a
Funny.
lot of stuff.
So the dump cake turned out right with just the butter and the cake mix?
Yeah, I guess that's the liquid is the butter, not you don't put milk or anything.
But
And the liquid from the cherries. So I don't know if I'd make it again. I wasn't like, this is amazing. Those cookies I'm gonna make again for sure because they were really good. Okay, if you're still rolling, you can keep rolling. And when you're done rolling, you can come back onto your back and we'll do our little floppy. Lazy floppy, lazy floppy. But the Molly, the girl that was sort of her caretaker, her husband's a musician. And so every once in a while, he would just sit down at the piano and just start playing a couple of songs like randomly throughout the event. I was like, this is awesome. And of course, I asked the granddaughter, I was like, are y'all going to say anything? And she was like, oh God, no, I don't do public speaking. I said, can I say something? She goes, oh yeah, yeah. So about halfway through when everybody had food, I stood up and flapped my gums for a minute and just said how special she was to me. And there was a woman at our table that had gone. I said, how did you know her? And she said, from the Baptist church. And I thought, I know for a fact they quit going to that church when her husband died. And that's been at least 10 or 15 years. So these people that she had known years ago were showing up out of the woodwork. Okay, when you're done
nice,
with
that you said something.
yeah, you know me, I got a big mouth. I gotta always pipe up and say something. All right, check out this bridge variation. And so it doesn't even really have to be a bridge. This first part, you might just think push into your right heel and reach your right arm up like you're trying to pull something off the couch behind you. So you can look up and reach up and sort of lean to one side. Yeah. And then to go the other way, I'm going to push into my left heel and reach my left arm up on the diagonal. So that might be all you do of this tonight. You might just lean a little bit onto one hip and then come back. If you want to make this into a more exertive kind of move, you could bridge up. So now I'm leaning on one shoulder and my hips are off the ground. So if that feels like an okay thing to add, that's your part 2. Yeah. Pushing on your heel, reaching your arm. And then you can play with how your legs are moving. It could be that your knees, one knee stays more pointing up to the ceiling as you reach up. That could be a little different move. It could be that your knees flop way over. So you can experiment with that, either having your knee pointing more up to the ceiling or letting yourself sort of roll to the side. Yeah. And then once you've done a few of those each way, come on down and rest. And then we'll do our Cobra. So Cobra is one of our February 5. Come on to your tummies, please. And then imagine you're going to roll a little marble away with your nose. Easy does it. Stretch and lift your upper back and chest. And then easy does it. Come on down. So it's pretty much just the top third of my back that I'm working here. And stretch your chest. You might even roll your shoulders up and down and back. Come on down. You can play with the hand position. You might go wider with your hands, or maybe hands more under your shoulders. Maybe hands out a little bit forward. Find a good spot that feels really good on your shoulders and upper back and neck. Easy does it, lifting up. I'm getting longer as you lower down. But yeah, the couple that lives next door, I guess their kitchen looks out into her kitchen. And the wife, when she came in and saw me, she just started bawling. She was like, I don't even want to live in that house anymore. We miss her so much. And the husband was like, I used to get up and make my coffee, and I'd see Miss Brummel over there in her kitchen. I was like, oh. Okay, now let's do easy does it. Bend your knees. And if your knees or your feet were your little lizard tail, you're just going to wag your little lizard tail left and right. Yeah, so this should feel good. It shouldn't feel bad for your back or owie or anything. If it doesn't feel good, do a smaller range. So it could be just teeny tiny waggy. It could be that your legs go way over to the side and your back twists a little bit. Only if that feels good. You can either rest your head on your hands, or your head might even roll a little bit. Notice what it does. Does it roll the same way as your feet? Does it roll the opposite way? Then you could do legs coming across each other and legs out to the side. So now I'm doing cross my ankles, legs to the side. So my legs are rolling opposite directions, in and out. And in and out. Easy does it. And you can circle your feet and ankles. And circle the other direction. And then how's about a little cat and cow? Come on up. Angry cat pushing the ground away. Now take a couple of breaths here. Really push your arms and see if you can feel your shoulder blades surfing around the sides of your ribs. Really exaggerate that upper back stretch. Push your hands, let your head hang on your next big inhale. And come back to neutral and then let your chest drop down. Maybe squeeze your shoulder blades together. Angry cat. Yep, Heather's doing the standing version. That's a nice variation. Or you could even do put your hands on the back of the couch. Notice how much rounding you can get in your back. How much extension. And then you could reverse it. You could play with inhaling into your upper back as you do your angry cat. Just notice what happens when you inhale up, exhale down. Does that change your cat? Really, as long as you're breathing, there's not necessarily a right or wrong way, as long as you're not holding your breath. Okay, then once you've done some each direction, let us come back to the roller, please. So, what do you have to report today, Bridget?
I had no kids on Friday and today, which was
Oh my goodness, it was like a planning day.
well, I was supposed to have a planning day, but I have progress reports too, so I didn't have, that's the life of a teacher. You get a thing, then they give you 10 things to do to your 10,000.
Okay, notice what you notice laying on the roller. You could notice, in fact, if you're feeling wobbly, you might wobble a little bit until you come to rest in your center. And then notice how your shoulders and arms came to rest. They might be palms down or palms up. You can notice your waist. Does one side of your waist feel shorter or longer? You can notice your pelvis and your legs. And just take a little inventory as we're resting here.
I am putting out an APB for Car and Driver magazine. If anybody has any Car and Driver magazine.
Car and Driver magazine. All right. Do you want me to ask my Facebook Buy Nothing group if they've got any?
Nah. I mean, I just went to this, just went to CVS to see if they had it, and they had this other car magazine. It was $13.99. I was
Oh
like,
my
I
gosh.
stand at the register. I didn't even look at it, and it said $13.99, and I went $13.99.
Okay, float your arms up and then let's do whatever feels good. This is kind of like your octopus arm. This is just like floaty in and out, bend and straighten, move your wrists, move your fingers like you're conducting an orchestra of angels. You can do elbows down and up. You can do bend and straighten. And I think it's real loosey goosey. Our goal here is to just loosen up your shoulders and neck. It could be small right over your shoulders. It could be big. And then imagine if you were pulling some taffy out to the side and then bringing your hands back together. So you're pulling your taffy, kind of like when we do letter T, but now this is a little more juicier. So I'm just separating my arms away from each other, out to the side and in. So what are you doing with the Car and Driver magazine?
I have this kid that's really into cars, but he hates reading, and he loves, I don't know. There's not very much material for teenagers who like car stats, you know what I mean? And I had this brilliant idea that he could read this book called Cannonball about the Cannonball Run and then watch the movie. But then I watched the movie and I was like, oh my God, he could never watch this.
Okay, now let your arms come out and float. Yeah, I'm sure it's like horribly sexist, racist, curse words.
Yep. And super raunchy. And they're drinking like every minute.
When did it come out? In the 70s or 80s?
Yeah, it's got like Sammy Davis Jr. and Martin, and they're dressed as priests, and then Roger Moore's in it, and he's like having martinis. You know, they're racing across the country. He's like having martinis in his Rolls Royce or whatever.
Okay, check this out. Let's do circles, and yeah, these will be big circles. You can go reach your arms back by your ears. Circle down and around. Reach your arms back. And circle. Now, if you want to add this little baby roll up, as you swing your arms down, you could lift your head and look up at your knees. And then roll back onto the roller, finish your circle. Circle your arms down. Maybe you come up a little higher, and you might even grab a hold of the backs of your legs and roll up to seated. Oh, see how I snuck in that little ab thing? Look how sneaky. So you got arm circle, roll up, partial or full, which is, guess what? A variation on our teaser. So if that's not working for today, just ignore my suggestion.
I'd like to request that you do this one on a hard roller as well, Anne.
Yes, this is a lot harder on a hard roller. So you could put a towel. That can be a bit much. I have the soft one out because I'm delicate and tender. All right, that's enough of that nonsense. So that was our little arm circle, and there's a variation on our teaser. Actually, your pullover, you can decide if you want to be on or off the roller. I think I'm gonna be flat on the floor for this one. So as I've been working this pullover here, I'm trying to stretch out my lats, and this has been really helpful. And when I say lats, what I'm talking about is the muscle that inserts into the back of your arm, and it takes up all of this space. It covers a lot of area down to the back of your hip and all through like upper back. Yeah, this big old thing. So if you have a weight handy, yeah, Heather's doing with the band. You could also hold a band. But if the weight actually gives you a little help getting your back stretched out. So you might feel comfortable today stretching your elbows and reaching your arms overhead. Now, you don't have to go all the way to the ground ever, and especially not in this first round. You might just go like a third of the way back. Maybe you can still see the weight overhead. Yep. See how this feels. Go slow. If this feels comfortable or comfortably uncomfortable, to let your arms go back further. That's where we're headed. Now, one of my dudes has figured out if he grabs the fat ends of the weight, that gives him a little more width because he's got pretty tight shoulders. So he's been doing it this way where he holds the fat ends. That actually feels worse on my shoulder when I hold it that way. So I've been liking this narrow grip, but you can play with your grip. Stretching your arms overhead, or you can get rid of all of your accoutrement and just take your arms up like high V, yeah, or whatever feels good. I'll just do a few more of these. But really think of that, all that fascia down the sides of your back, lats, serratus, armpit muscles getting to stretch. Yeah, Bridget, I would think for a kid on the spectrum, you give him some car stats because those car dudes that aren't on the spectrum are like, oh my gosh, they get so into that stuff, right? And there's so much detail and numbers.
Problem is that he's on the spectrum. He needs to be learning about emotions and like things that you learn about in books, not technical books, but like fiction books,
right?
Human things.
Mm-hmm.
And so this friend of mine was telling me that they have like stories in Car and Driver.
Ah, now that's interesting. Okay, now you can ditch your weight. Oh, I like what Gary's doing. He was just doing, were you looking at your watch or were you doing a little twist? I like that little twisty thing. That's pretty cool. Okay, ditch your weight. Let's do knee sway. Now, this is real easy. We kind of alluded to this one with our bridge earlier. I'm just letting my left hip be heavy and letting my knees sway to the left. And this can be as tiny or as big as you want to do today. And then I let my right hip be heavy and my knees sway to the right. Yeah. So it could be mostly my legs and hips. It could be that my spine and my shoulders move and do something. Maybe my head moves. It could be fast or slow. My brother's, I guess he's a senior this year, so he must be 17. His older son bought a Mustang, like an early 90s model Mustang. So it was old enough, it doesn't have all the computer stuff. And it was like he said, they almost couldn't get it home. It just kept breaking down the side of the road. And they watch YouTube videos together on the weekends. And then he's like, they find some dude in Clay County that's got a carburetor. I guess it's a pretty common, whatever this model is of this particular car. So they can find parts online and then they'll go and pick them up. And he's just like rebuilt the engine just from watching YouTube videos. So
that's awesome.
Isn't that cute? It's a little activity they can do together.
Yeah, it's amazing what you can learn how to do on YouTube.
I think it's like a 1990 maybe or a 91 or something. Okay, so let us do our bird dog. So we did a bunch of release work. We'll do a little stability and then some mobility. So your bird dog, if anybody's up for this silliness, if this is too crazy, you can ignore my suggestion. I think this one, it's harder with the hard roller too than with the soft. But you could put your roller on your back and try to not lose it as you do. Opposite arm and leg. And then switch. And opposite arm.
Nope, already not working.
Yeah, if it rolls off, you can just ignore. The yoga block is a good one to use too. Oh yeah, and Heather's doing swimming. That's a nice variation. And even just imagining, or you might even just stretch your leg and just check and see, okay, am I keeping my pelvis nice and level? Am I keeping my shoulders nice and level? Am I breathing? Okay, then come on to one side. I'll give you two options. You could stay here and do hands and knees. We're going to do that hip mobility, hip circle. or you can lay on your side. So I'm going to show this laying on my side version. Or Heather, if that hurts your shoulder, you could stand. So if you need another option, if this doesn't feel good, let me know and I'll give you another option. This is hip mobility. And what I'm going to do is tense up my body. In fact, you might even hang on to something with like a weight, something that's kind of sturdy, so that basically from my head to my pelvis, I want to tense everything up. So I'm tensing up my arms, tensing up my tummy. So I'm not like blobby, loosey goosey belly. That's what we were doing earlier. This ain't that. This is tense up, or you can even make a fist and push your fist into the ground. Yep. And then this top knee, I'm going to float my knee up towards my elbow and then up towards the ceiling. So now I've just about got my knee as far as I can get it to go without my hip moving. So if I move my hip, my legs can go way back. But if I really think, don't move my hip, if there's a point where it goes, all right, that's all I get. And then from there, I'm going to lift my foot and try to keep my knee and my foot as high as I can as I take my leg to the back. Now we tense up all of this stuff, your tummy, your torso, your hip. Now my foot is back behind me. I'm going to reverse my circle. So you should almost feel like a little pinch or a little squeeze back there in your butt. Pelvis stays still. Take your foot up, knee up, as high as you can without moving your waist. Come all the way around to the front. Now I'm back in that parallel position. And then rest. I feel like you can't see me with black on black. I'm going to scoot my mat back just as many. So I'm going to do one more. Is it?
Am I opposite butt? Is that where?
Oh yeah. So I'm sorry, Bridget. If you're on hands and knees, you're doing this. And I'm trying to do that without moving anything. So going pretty dang slow. Yeah. So I'll do one more time this regular speed. I'm going to lift my leg to the front. And then I lift my leg either to the side, or if you're on hands and knees, get to the side. If you're on the floor, it's up to the ceiling. And at some point, I have to lift my foot to keep going. And now my hamstring is working. And I'm taking my leg like I could put my foot on the wall behind me. So the action is moving my femur bone inside my pelvis. Now that's what I'm calling back. My leg's back behind me. Now I go up and out to the side. And it almost feels like crampy in my hammy and in my tushy. And then around to the front. And going this slow, I feel like is important to be able to control my leg. If I just kind of like, I'm not really getting that same benefit of working that joint. I'm working that hip joint. Yeah. How do we do with that crazy thing? It's a little crazy, but we'll practice it. Yep. Okay, let's do side number 2. So my goal is, so if I moved my hip, it would look more like this. You'd see my waist moving, my ribs would roll. If I really think, push the ground with a fist, or like someone's going to come punch you in the gut, or if somebody was going to come shove you, they wouldn't knock you over. So I'm really firming everything up. And then I take this top knee up towards my shoulder, up towards the ceiling. And I get to a point where I can't go any more to the side, and I start to go to the back. And I can take my heel first, and it's like I'm having to work to hold my hip in place using my core. And then when I get all the way back, I'm back in that parallel position. So now my knee is straight down from my hip. It's kind of hard to see this because my camera's up a little bit higher. Now I'm going to go back as far as I can go, back, up into the side without letting my waist move. And then I bring my knee around and my foot around. And then it's like I'm sitting in a chair again. So that's kind of the starting point. I'll just do one more each way. So this should feel like work. It shouldn't feel like pain, but it should feel like, oof, I'm warming up from doing this exertive move of stabilizing my pelvis and rolling that femur bone around in my hip. And I went front to back. Now I'm going back to front, up and around. Like I'm trying to lift my leg over a little obstacle and back to the front. So this is joint mobility. can I stabilize my torso and hip and just move that femur bone around inside my hip? Okay, how do we do with that one? That's a new one, so we'll play with it a little bit. It's okay if we didn't get it exactly today. What now? Oh, we can stay right here and do our thoracic rotation. Now this one too, you could kind of keep your legs still. You don't have to glue them in place, but you could do a little more focus on your upper back, and not really let your legs move. Yeah. And this might be just rolling a little bit back. It might be that you roll all the way onto your upper back and extend your arm. And then you might reach forward and even roll onto your face. Breathe. And then we can flip to the other side. So you can stack your legs. Legs stay put. Reach your top arm forward and back. So it's my ribs, shoulders that I'm trying to get to move. Rolling my head. What about like graphic novels, Bridget, like cartoons for adults? Are your kids into those kind of things?
Some of them are, yeah, but he's not really. He's really hard to find things for. He's really anxious and he won't do anything by himself.
Okay, once you've done some each way, let us do the low lunge. Look, it's 35 minutes in, and this is the first time we even got up off the floor for anything. I told you we were going to do lazy tonight. Okay, so your low lunge, you can either stay here, smushing this knee into the ground. Yep, pad your knee if you need to. You could do a little rocky front and back. You could sit back and get a little hammy stretch. Oh, that feels good. You can do lungy and hammy stretch. You could do hold this position and stretch your arm up. And then if this feels comfortable, okay, so Gary, you said you want to get your, Gary was been watching the Olympics, Bridget. He wants to get his leg up behind his head. So here's how you work on that. You bring your hands down and start to work your shoulder underneath your knee. That's step one of getting your leg behind your head. Gary's going to take up ice skating.
Better you than me, Gary.
I heard
My
they had.
sister loves the Olympics. She watches the Olympics like nonstop, and I watch none of it. And she always calls me, and she's like, "Oh my God, you must be watching the Olympics."
Okay, you can switch legs whenever you're ready. You can do leg number 2. I like certain things. I like gymnastics, of course. Who doesn't like gymnastics?
Well, I don't. I mean, I don't want to do them, but
I like any heartfelt story, or the ones where they had a rough year, they had an injury, or something happened and they got knocked out before the last one, and they're back 4 years later. I'm like, yay!
I'm happy for you. I know that that's a big deal. We did watch, the kids and I did watch videos about skeleton, which is like it's like a luge. Do you know what the skeleton is? Fuck, it's hardcore, man. It's like they're going like I don't know, 70 or 80 miles an hour on these sleds, and their chins are like 4 inches from the ground.
Oh, they're going face first?
Yeah, they run, they like hold on to they sprint with the sled like at top speed, and then they jump on face first, and they have these, it's like ice, it's like crazy. The kids are like, whoa.
Okay, now you could bring your hands down and start to wedge your shoulder close to under your knee or your inner thigh. Yep. File that under things I'll never do. Things I don't even want to watch. I would just have an anxiety
No, it's
attack.
pretty cool. Like I liked watching it.
All right, I'll Google skeleton.
Which is really saying something.
If Bridget, the non-sports fan, is into it. Okay, let's come back. If you are in the mood for a plank and a dog combo, I'll let you decide how you want to do these tonight. You could do boogieing back and forth from your plank to your dog. If that doesn't feel good on your shoulders tonight, you could find a couch or a piece of furniture or a wall and do the same thing on your piece of furniture. Yeah. You could do another stretch that feels really good. You could hold your plank for a few breaths. And hold your dog for a few breaths. Now, I heard something on the news about they had to cancel a couple of these downhill races because the winds were like so high it was dangerous. And so a couple of the racers had gotten to do a practice run. And then the authorities came in and like, we're shutting this down. And they were crying foul. They said, that's not fair. These guys already got their practice run. And he's like, yeah, you could die. So we want to just keep you from dying. So, okay, come on up to standing. Let's do our wide squat. Now you got lots of stuff here you could do with your arms when you're doing your wide squat. Option one, nothing with your arms. You might just put your hands on your hips and do wide squat. Option two, you could hold a weight. Option three, you could stretch a band. Yeah. And then you could hinge forward on this one. You could come down and hold. So whatever feels like a good wide squat position. Yeah, I like all these variations. You could do press your hands together. You might even be able to get low. We were working on this a couple of months ago, that low squat where you can go so low that you actually touch your elbows to your inner thighs or inner knees. If you're working on your depth. And then find a spot that feels like a good hangout, and you can do a little boogie here, left and right. Okay, I feel like we should do one strength exercise. How about some rows? We'll do single arm, meaning, or actually I wanted to do rows and then a little deadlift series. Meaning I'm going to put my right leg back and I'm going to have my hand here to support. If you don't like this version, you can do whatever your favorite row variation is today. So one landmark could be when I pull my weight up that I tap my weight to that hip bone that's sticking out in front, if that feels like a good option for you today. And you could even do a little bit of a twist. As you let your arm come down, you could let your shoulder blade release. And then as you come back, you could turn your chest a little bit. So I'll show from the front what I'm talking about. So I'm letting my shoulder drop down. And as I pull up, squeezing my shoulder blade. When I think of that lower landmark, that hip, I'm getting, again, that lat that I was talking about earlier. Now I'm starting to work that lower rib. Yeah. And then we'll switch. If you've been doing both arms the whole time, take a little rest break, and then you can do round two. If you were doing one arm, let's take a rest, and then you can switch sides. Or you could switch legs. Some kind of a row. If you want to do this variation, I'm letting my shoulder blade release towards the floor. And then squeezing my shoulder blade. Yeah. And then once you've done an even number left and right, I'm going to give you the option to do this holding a weight still. But if you're like, I'm not in the mood for that tonight, ignore my suggestion. I'm going to show this first one, I think, from facing, y'all. So I've got my roller. My right hand is on my roller. My left hand holds my weight. And then as you slide your left leg back, you can bend your right knee. It's almost like you're going to put your weight on the floor and then you change your mind and you can stand back up. So here's what it looks like from the side. My weight goes straight down. I can bend my knee. The roller is there to help me balance. And then I go, oh, never mind, I'm going to stand back up. So try a couple of these. This is basically a variation on your single leg deadlift. So my shoulder is anchored. My back is working. My tummy's working. My standing hip is working. And this is a move that definitely changes if you have a lighter weight versus a heavier weight. So today I'd say do the lightest option. And as we get the hang of this one, you could work into a heavier weight and see what that feels like when you're really thinking of, as you stand up, pulling against something, pulling that weight up. Yeah. Hold this one. Actually ditch your weight. And we'll hold here with our little single-legged balance. If you don't need your roller, you can ditch it. Take 3 more big deep breaths. Now you can always come down and take a little rest if you need it. 1 more big inhale. And then exhale, come all the way up. Can you, the leg that was in the back is now in the front. Can you hold it at this 90-degree bend? So I'm using my tummy, using my hip flexor and quad. Yep. Breathe. Firm up your arms. If you don't need the roller, you could take your hands off and maybe have your arms at your
I
side.
can't even stand with the roller.
Bridget, keep the roller. I'm going to add one little bonus round. You might be able to bend and straighten that knee. And it doesn't have to stay that high. You might take your leg a little lower. Bend and straighten. Nice. Bend and straighten. So your challenge would be keeping this thigh where it is and not falling over. That's a good challenge. 1 more of these guys. Now I'll let you decide. If you need a rest break, take a rest break. If you can cross that leg over and do your hip stretch from here, do so. But if it feels like your leg is getting fatigued and you need a little rest, just come down and rest. Whoa. And then we'll come up and do that whole thing on the other side. So take a little walk, take a little break, sip of water. I'm gonna get my water. All right, are we getting the hang of this crazy thing? It's not so crazy. It's basically your warrior 3, but we added a weight. So now I'm at my whole setup on side number 2. Left hand holds onto your roller or your dining chair. And you can let that left knee bend as you bring your weight down. Now I'm trying to keep everything pretty squared up, so I'm not tilting or twisting. And here's what it looks like from the side. My right knee goes back. Think about this hand going straight down, straight back up. So I'm not really swinging my weight forward and back. I'm controlling my weight. Yep, I'm trying to tense everything up. Tensing my shoulder, tensing my tummy and my back. So this is really good back and hip strength and standing balance and core. You can always take a rest if you need a rest. And then let's do our little balance. I'm going to ditch my weight for this one. You can hold that warrior 3 or balance position. Actually, the weight might help you balance. If it feels like the weight is helping you, you could keep it. Take a couple more big, deep breaths. And then come up to standing. That leg that was in the back, can it now be straight out in front of you? 90 degrees. So your knee stacked over your ankle. Maybe look, ma, no hands. Maybe. Yep, if you need the roller or the wall, keep your hand there. If you can do your 5 little kick outs, I'm going to straighten my knee and then bend it. And you might be able to keep your thigh where it is. And straighten. And bend. And straighten. And bend. Straighten and bend. Good. One more of these guys. If you need a break, take a break. If you can go right into your hip stretch, you could cross that leg over. Have a seat. Okay, that was our big strength series. What did I forget? Did it? Oh yeah, we got one more strengthy thing. Ah, perfect timing. Come to the floor, please. So we didn't do saw. I think we might save saw for next week. I want to do our side leg lift. And I gotta write down saw because I forgot him. Did I put him in here somewhere? Nope. Totally forgot him. That's okay. Okay, side leg lift, and then we'll do our bicycle and our propeller. So this is one of your February 5, as was that crazy arm circle roll up thing, the teaser. See if you can stack yourself. And again, I'm going to firm up everything, kind of like I was doing with that leg circle. So you might mash your fist into the ground or squeeze your legs together or cough and button up your vest. And then dig your big toes into each other and take your heels just a little bit apart. So my top leg is a little bit pigeon-toed, so that when I lift my leg, my heel is higher than my toe. So it's not going to be a real big karate kick. What I want you to feel is that top of your butt muscle working. If you feel this in your quad, you've probably taken your leg forward or externally rotated it. So I'm going to imagine that my heel is sliding up and down the wall behind me. Heel up, toes down. Yeah, let's do 2. I'm organized through my torso. And I'm going to keep this organization. Hold that parallel position. Bring your leg back, bend your knee. Drag your leg forward and extend. That's very much like what we did standing. Leg goes back. Here's kind of like what we did standing, leg forward. I'm just going to do 2 more. Easy. Riding a bike. Swing your leg through. Now you can reverse that whole thing. You can do leg to the back. Straighten your leg, swing it through. Bend your knee. Take your leg back. Nice. Now, if this feels good to stay with straight leg and do propeller, you could now let your torso move. So now this is more like loosey-goosey, juicy. Arm forward, leg back. Leg forward, arm back. You could roll onto the front of your head and face and roll onto the back of your head. Then you can do side number 2. Okay, we got our stretched out nice and long. You might even come to the back of your mat if you're not sure where you are in space. Button your vest. Stretch out nice and long. Big toes touching, heels a little bit apart, so that when I lift my leg is really straight. and my heel is a little bit higher. And you might put your hand up here on the top of your butt and see if you can feel that top of your hip muscle working. Yep. Easy, tiny little lift, not a big karate kick. I'm also thinking of that length, like I could close the door with my heel, straight knees. So my bottom leg is pushing down too. Everything's working a little bit. Heels out, toes in. Let's do. And then I'm going to hold maybe about a yoga block amount of space between my feet, parallel feet. Knee and leg can go back behind you. You can bend your knee, swing your leg through, and now leg is in front of you. Swing your leg back, bend. Swing your leg through, straighten. I'm making like a big circle with my leg, forward and back. And then you can reverse this whole thing. So now you can bend your knee, take your leg back, extend your knee, swing it forward, back, and forward. Or whatever makes sense to your brain. Doesn't have to be exactly what I'm doing. Yeah, now this might feel good to do your propeller where you stretch, arm forward, leg back, arm back, leg forward. Oh, you know what I forgot to do on the roller earlier that we could do right now if you want? This is a nice little huggy thing. Inner thighs. If you already did this one, you can skip it. So this feels nice to have your roller perpendicular to you, to your torso in the mat, and then roll your inner thigh. Sometimes this can be kind of sensitive though, so be really nice, especially if you're on one of the hard rollers. And then you could play with moving your leg around. You could lift and lower your foot. You could bend and straighten. And you can move it up or down a little bit. Move your leg. And you can switch and do the other side. So I got my roller snuggled up, kind of like how I would have a body pillow if anybody uses a body pillow. And then you can roll yourself forward. And if you want to do something else as your last little bit of stretchy, and then you can do bend and straighten or lift and lower. And then if you got any more wiggling you want to do, now is your chance. Wrap it up. Can you believe that was an hour? Oh, how time flies when we're having fun. All right, come to your comfortable rest position. And that might be seated or laying on your back. You might prop up your feet or your head. Take a big inhale. Big exhale. Our focus this month for February is love. Love for yourself, love for others. So as we meditate on love tonight, can you picture your chest, your upper back, your shoulders and neck, and right in the middle of your chest cavity, so the color that corresponds to that heart chakra is an emerald green. So if that resonates with you tonight, you could picture this emerald jewel glowing inside your chest. And with each breath, the color gets stronger, more vibrant. It's filling up your whole chest, your upper back, shining down into your torso, shining out into your arms and hands, up into your skull, way down to your hips, legs, feet. This next breath, picture that glowing emerald, glowing so bright it starts to shine outside of your body and into the room. This is your eternal spring of love. It's everlasting. You have an unlimited supply. And as you picture this glow getting stronger, brighter, picture it touching other people or animals that are in the house with you. You can send your glowing emerald out into your neighborhood. You can send your love out to people, maybe even across the country and other areas of the country who could use a little dose of some TLC. And you have this unlimited supply. The more you send out, the more comes back to you. And picture when people receive your love, how do they react? Do they smile or do they send you love back? Maybe they give you a hug. Picture what that feels like to get your love sent right back to you in return. All of my relationships are enveloped in a circle of love. Envelop your family in a circle of love. Include your friends, your spouse, everyone from your work and your past. Affirm that you have wonderful, harmonious relationships with everyone, where there is mutual respect and caring on both sides. Let this circle of love envelop the entire planet and let your heart open so you can have a space within you of unconditional love. Okay, I went over, but just by 1 minute. It's 7:01. If you want to continue resting there, you can keep resting there. How do you feel? So we did some different kinds of stuff. What do you think?
It's good.
I'm a little tired, Anne. I was expecting more stretching.
That wasn't enough stretching?
Oh,
That was
I
a
mean,
workout.
it was a workout. That's a good way to say it, Carrie.
I thought that was
I heard
mostly-
Anne. I'm glad we have this recorded because I heard Anne say we're going to do one strength thing, which then
Right.
turned into two, which
I
turned
love
into
that.
three.
That's so funny. I was like, well, there was squats
That's
and
Sneak it up on
rows,
me.
But all the time.
and then the deadlift was like kind of like Warrior 3, but with a weight.
Yeah.
Side leg.
That was my attempt at
Tricky,
doing
tricky.
mostly stretching. I was not
Very
trying
good.
to trick you.
Thanks, Ann.
Thank you. Have a good week.
All right.
Later.
Bye.
See you next time.